All right, so as I said, we do have a lot on the program today. Madam Producer, are we ready? All right, so we are going to be discussing the issue of discrimination, and we are going to have someone from the Equal Opportunities Commission, and they are going to be speaking about that very, very shortly. All right, so bear with us. We are going to have that interview for you very, very soon. According to the President General of the Oil Fields Workers Trade Union, Ansel Roger, he is calling for workers of the Trinidad and Tobago Trinidad Cement Limited to be paid outstanding monies in relation to collective agreements dated back to 2015. Should this continue to be unpaid, the workers will continue to protest, and strike action is also not off the cards. All right? Okay, so we're moving on. So Zero Discrimination Day is celebrated on March 1st each year by the United Nations and other international organizations. Its aim is to promote equality before the law and in practice throughout all of the member countries of the United Nations. Now, here at home, Director of Legal Services at the Equal Opportunity Commission, Haran Ramkaransingh, joins us to tell us what it means in Trinidad and Tobago. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Marlon. How are you?
I'm good. So let's speak a little bit about discrimination and how does discrimination manifest in Trinidad and Tobago, and do we have a serious problem?
Well, there are different styles or types of discrimination, for want of a better word. The Equal Opportunity Act, which is the enabling legislation for the Equal Opportunity Commission, is concerned with certain kinds of discrimination. For example, discrimination if you're being discriminated against based on your race, your religion, your ethnicity, your sex, your marital status, your disability, and that sort of thing. So, but we do get a lot of complaints. Part of our mandate is to receive complaints from members of the public and investigate these complaints, and trying to conciliate them. But sometimes we get a lot of complaints from persons who say that I'm being discriminated against in my job because, for example, my boss or my employer is favoring one person over the other. But if they can't point it to what we call a status ground, you can't say, well, this is happening because of the race of the parties or the religion or the gender, then we may not be able to assist you. But we always say, well, it is a form of discrimination if it is you feel that you're being treated unequally and unfairly for no good reason. But it may not be discrimination, which the Equal Opportunity Commission will be able to assist you with. On the other hand, our Constitution, the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, guarantees equality of treatment before the law and equality of treatment by a public authority. The concept of discrimination under the Constitution is a bit wider because it doesn't limit it to grounds of race, religion, and sex. However, it is also narrower because the Constitution, like I said, speaks about discrimination by a public body or public authority. So, for example, if you're being discriminated against, if you're a public officer and you're being discriminated against in your job, or if you're being discriminated by a service provider, say, the Customs and Excise or the Passport Office or that sort of thing, you can file what is known as a constitutional motion in the High Courts. The Equal Opportunity Act is wider because it applies to discrimination both by a public body and a private body. So as I said, so just by in this discussion, this simple discussion I began with, we throw out discrimination on so many different grounds, so many different parameters. So it is fairly wide, in our experience.
Has there been an increase in complaints to the Equal Opportunities Commission? And I know that you would have touched on persons being persons claiming that they're being discriminated against at work, but. In the main, is there a trend of allegation of discrimination?
Well, what we have found is that, we are empowered to receive complaints in 4 broad categories: in employment, in education, in the provision of goods and services, and in the provision of accommodation. But our statistics have shown for the last 10 years, we've only been in operation since 2010. So you can say for the last 12 years or so, overwhelmingly complaints are based in employment. So that we've always found discrimination based on employment is the largest area of complaint. And I guess employment matters are things that persons feel very, very, very sensitive about, because you're looking at things like your job prospects, your promotion, your salary, that sort of thing. I suppose if you go to a store and you were discriminated against by a storekeeper, you might feel, well, you know what, I'm just going to walk out. I'm going to leave. I'm not going to come back. I'm not going to spend my money here. You have, as the Consumer Affairs Division tells you, the power of choice is in your hand there. So while I'm sure it may happen there, we don't really get many complaints about discrimination in the provision of goods and services as we do in employment. It's over 80% of our complaints are in the area of employment.
If someone does have a claim of discrimination, how does someone contact the Equal Opportunities Commission, and also what is the process like?
Well, you can lodge a complaint using our website, so it's not necessary for you to come in. You can also contact us by telephone, or you can use our question and our question section in our website where you just submit a question. You can go onto our website and actually use that to submit your complaint form. Once a complaint is received, we will contact you, or the person lodging the complaint. We will try to schedule a meeting with you. For the last 3 years, we've been using, as much as possible, we've been using online platforms, but we are open to the public, so we'll try to accommodate however best. Now, our job is to investigate the complaint. So we therefore now have to investigate to source information from the respondent. That is the person against who the complaint has been lodged. So we would always write to the respondent. Because we're a public body, we have to act, we have to be guided by principles of natural justice and fairness. So we have to write to the respondent and say, look, we've received this complaint against you. These are so-and-so has alleged such and such. I say this because sometimes people ask, well, can I lodge a complaint against my employer or whoever, but I don't want them to know that I did it. And while we might sympathize with you, and we might understand why you feel you would like to be anonymous, the reality is that it is not fair to the respondent to just have an anonymous complaint against them and expect someone to defend, as it wouldn't be fair to you. I mean, think about it. If you were being accused of something by the police or by someone, you would need to know who your accuser is and what are the allegations against you. So that's why so we do have to write to the respondent. We have to give them an opportunity to put forward their information to say this is what happened or this is not what happened. Based on that, we might have more questions. Then at some point, we are empowered to bring the parties to the table for conciliation. That is to say, we try to bring the respondents and the complainant together to have a discussion or a dialogue to see if and how the matter could be resolved. Sometimes, many times, a complainant might simply say, I just wanted an apology, I just wanted something else. Because people tend to ask, well, what do we decide at conciliation? And I always say the conciliation is really between the two parties. It is not an adjudication. We are not a court. We don't impose an order on you in the way that if you go before the High Court or the Magistrates Court or the Industrial Court, a judge will hand down a judgment. However, if the matter is not resolved at conciliation, the Equal Opportunity Act created a second institution, and that is the Equal Opportunity Tribunal, and they are a court. So that if it's not resolved by us, it can be sent to the court. And just as I had mentioned a few seconds ago, you'll go before a judge, you have your lawyers present your case, your arguments, your evidence, all the trial that goes on in any court matter, and the judge will give a judgment.
Yeah. All right, let's speak a little bit about Zero Discrimination Day and how important is this?
Well, Zero Discrimination Day is a day in the United Nations calendar. It was originally started. It was originally started, by UNAIDS, which is the United Nations agency responsible for, monitoring and implementing their programs to combat the HIV and AIDS virus. And not just the virus, but the stigmatization and discrimination that arises out of being infected and affected by the virus, because in discrimination, there's what you call, when it comes to medical conditions, there's what you call a medical model, where you simply say, well, a person has these medical conditions. You might have heart disease, you might have diabetes, you might have high blood pressure. But the difference between HIV and AIDS and these other conditions is that while HIV/AIDS is a medical condition, just like hypertension and diabetes, there is a stigma attached to it that is not necessarily attached to these other medical conditions. And persons have felt discrimination more so in the stigma that they faced and the prejudices that they faced rather than merely having the virus. There are certain assumptions made against them, certain negative stereotypes. So Zero Discrimination Day really came out of that. It was born out of the UNAIDS mandate to combat discrimination and prejudice, not just arising out of having the virus, but out of the stigmatization, and prejudice that goes along with having the virus. But it has expanded beyond that remit to look at all aspects of discrimination.
And how is this being observed in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, the United Nations agencies will be engaging in more public education, and then Trinidad and Tobago. Well, like I said, there is specifically the NGOs and the agencies that deal with HIV and AIDS. For example, there's the National AIDS Advocacy group, which is part of the Ministry of Labor. So they will have their own programs to deal with that specific aspect, but we are looking at it. But we are looking at discrimination not just limited to the original mandate of HIV and AIDS, but to the wider aspects of discrimination. So, for example, we are engaging on a nationwide caravan, where we are hoping to, we started already last year in Tobago, and we now have to roll it out in Trinidad, where we're going into different regions. We're setting up our tent, and we're trying to, have conversations with members of the public who pass by. We also engage in public education. We go to various stakeholders on request. Many, for example, I'm just using examples. Banks have requested us to come in. Defense force agencies have requested us to come in. We partners with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Training Academy in St. James to do training with them. So any agency or entity can request that we come in. I use the word come in very loosely because this was a holdover from before the COVID-19 period, where we physically went into these offices to do it. Now we can do it virtually, or we can do it in office now that we've reopened. So that's what we're doing really. So we're not specifically looking at this one day in particular. We're looking at it more in terms of mass public education. Because rather than just focus on one simple day, we want you to focus on thinking about wider aspects of discrimination and equality and how we treat our fellow citizens.
When does the caravan begin?
Well, we had started last year in Tobago, and that was in November, but everything went on hold since then, I guess, with Christmas and Carnival. But we're hoping to resume, we're resuming in March. And at least one day for each month, we hope to be in different regional corporations or boroughs or burgesses to continue this work.
But is there what sort of response you would have gotten the first time with the caravan?
Well, one of the first questions we would always ask somebody is, have you heard of the Equal Opportunity Commission? Some people had said yes, because of where they work. They were aware of a co-worker who lodged a complaint with us. So there were a few people who said yes, but the majority of people said no, they weren't aware. So so then we had a conversation with them about who we are and what we do. So the response was quite favorable in terms of there being interest in our work. But initially, given that I would say more than half of the persons who came up to us didn't know about us, it showed that not many people are aware of who we are and what we do. But almost everybody showed an interest when we said who we are. Almost everybody showed an interest in saying, "Well, I didn't know this institution existed, and we're glad to hear that you all are there and doing this work."
When one makes a complaint to the EOC, what sort of information do they have to work with, have in their possession?
Well, we always say, if you want to lodge a complaint, just lodge it initially, and then we'll call you for a meeting, and then from there we'll try to piece out what it is you need. But generally what we say is, what is the evidence you have to say that you're being discrimination of employment? We always need background information, like all
right, we're losing Mr. Ramkaransingh. All right. Okay, here's what. Let's go to a very short break, and we'll be back with the Mr. Ramkaransingh, Haran Ramkaransingh of the EOC. We're coming back. right, so welcome back. That's the situation in Caroni at this time. So traffic is moving slowly but surely, and I'm seeing an improvement as it relates to the traffic heading north to the Grand Bazaar intersection, and traffic is moving quite smoothly as it moves into, well, you know, I have goat mouth. As soon as I spoke about traffic moving smoothly, I'm seeing that the traffic's slowing down heading north, all right? So let me not say about anything about the traffic heading central into south, all right? So let's leave it there. I don't want to blight the situation, all right? So let's return to our interview with Mr. Haran Ramkaransingh of the Equal Opportunity Commission. Mr. Ramkaransingh, good morning again.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, you were making a point when we left you earlier.
Yes. Yes, you were asking, so what sort of information would a person need to bring? What we always say is that discrimination, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It normally exists by comparison. So let us say you are complaining that I'm being discriminated against on my job. Let's just say I was not promoted. One of the questions we would ask, well, was someone promoted ahead of you? So you would need to bring information about persons who you feel were treated better than you, that this person, that I was next in line for the promotion and this person got it instead of me. Because sometimes we've had complaints where a person might say, I'm being discriminated because I'm not being promoted. And then we would ask, well, was anyone else promoted? And the answer would be no. And then we would say, well, while that might be perhaps an industrial relations issue, might be a trade union issue, it's not necessarily a discrimination issue, because you can't say that you were being treated badly compared to somebody else, or that somebody else got better treatment than you. So that's always one of the things you look for in discrimination, really. Was someone treated better than you? It's not absolutely necessary, because let's just say an employer says, I refuse to promote people who are of a certain race or certain religion. But I'm just making up an example, and you fall within that category. Then although no one else was promoted, then you can say, well, I'm being discriminated against because of my religion or my sex or my race, because the employer is refusing to promote females or refusing to promote, that sort of thing. So these are things we look at. I mean, was someone treated better than you? Has your employer engaged in or said or done something that would make you feel that you were being discriminated against?
But is it that, because I know that there's going to be a period of time when one makes an application or a complaint to the Equal Opportunity Commission, it is going to take some time to investigate.
Yes. Well, to begin with, you have to make your complaint within 6 months of the event. Sometimes we get people complaining about things that happened 3 or 4 years before. So you have to, that's the first thing to note with respect to time. You have to be on time, meaning you have to do it within 6 months. When we do our investigation can take a bit of time because it's very document-based. As I said, we have to write to the respondent. We have to gather the information from you. So sometimes even after you come in, just to stick a pin, we always say make your complaint within time. Even if you don't have all the information, just make sure and get yourself within the 6 months. And thereafter, once you've gotten yourself within the door, as we say, once you're inside, then we can try to work with you just to get the relevant information from you. Sometimes persons take a number of months before they're able to do that. Then once we get that, then we're able to write to the employer or the respondent, as we say, because it's not necessarily an employer. And sometimes we can write to any other party, but let's just say we write to somebody. We normally give them, say, 1 month to reply, but depending on the volume of information, they might reasonably ask, well, it's a lot and they need extra time. So sometimes the investigation can sometimes go on for a whole year, because when they get the information, we got information from the employer or the respondent, we have to analyze it. We have investigating officers and legal officers who have to sit down and go through all of this volume. So that sometimes it's not an overnight process. It's the work we do. I don't want to compare us to a trade union, because I don't want to give the impression that there is any sort of rivalry between the EUC and a trade union. But the work that we do is different to the work that a trade union does. For example, a shop steward can simply request a meeting with someone, a grievance meeting, or they can go in right away. Well, that's not what we do. We don't turn up at the doorstep of the employer, banging on their door saying we want a meeting with you. We have, it's very document based.
When the commission approaches someone, So an employee, someone makes a complaint against an organization. Your commission writes the organization. Does that organization have a discretion, or is it that the organization has to respond to the commission? If it does not respond, are there repercussions?
Yes, under the Equal Opportunity Act, there is a mandate on respondents to provide information. If they do not provide information to us, or if they do not respond, then we can file a complaint before the magistrate's court. You know, to use the local language, we can bring them up before the court. We can take out a summons against them. And they would have to now go before the magistrate and explain why they did not respond. And if they cannot give a reasonable justification for their failure, the magistrate can impose a fine of up to $1,000 a day if the respondent is a private individual, or $5,000 per day if the respondent is a corporation, or an incorporated business entity, or even an incorporated government entity. Any government agency that exists as a statutory authority, for example, would fall under this. And they can be fined, as I said, up to $1,000 or $5,000 a day for each day that they have failed or refused to comply. So there are repercussions. It's not an overnight process just as well, because we're going before the magistrate's court, and that itself can take a little bit of time, but there are repercussions.
Is it that the commission will investigate every complaint made to the commission, and do you have staff to investigate?
Yes. Well, we have we're given a mandate to investigate all complaints, but your complaint must be within our jurisdiction. So as I said, if you're complaining about something that happened in your employment, but you can't link it or tie it or pinpoint it to what are the status grounds, which, to repeat, would be things like your race, your ethnicity, your disability, your sex, your marital status, your origin. If you can't pinpoint it to, or link it to one of these grounds, then we would not be able to proceed any further with your matters. So matters like that, we would not be able to investigate. But as long as you've made a complaint that is linked to one of these grounds, we are under statutory duty, the Equal Opportunity Act says so, that we must investigate the complaint.
Yeah. So just before we end our interview, could you please again, for persons who are viewing the program who would want to make complaints to the commission, could you give us your contact information again?
Yes. Well, our easiest form of contact is through our website, which is www.equalopportunity.gov.tt. People tend to say, we're the Equal Opportunities Commission. No, we're not. It's singular, Equal Opportunity. So if you go to www.equalopportunity.gov.tt, you will get all of our website information, all of our information about who we are and what we do and that sort of thing. And that's it. You can come into our offices. Our offices are on Manic Street in Shogunas, which is right next to the Wassa building off Ramsaran Street. So we do take in members of the public, and that's it. And you can also pose questions to us through our website. You can lodge complaints through our website as well.
Yeah. Haran Ramkaransingh of the Equal Opportunity Commission, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. Thank you again. All right. So we are going to a very short break. We're coming back.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.